So welcome everybody. I'm glad that you can join me today. So 3 years ago, I was lucky enough to speak at the first ProfCon, and I did not talk about this program at all. I talked about online teaching, which who knew how serendipitous that would be, that I actually started to teach online prior to 2019. But 2 years ago, I also spoke at ProfCon, this time virtually, and my topic was this. Some of you may have attended, or if not, I'm just going to remind you. But I felt like I had my mission accomplished. I had spent, prior to the 2020 ProfCon in June, 2 years ago exactly, I had spent 2.5 years trying to launch this digital marketing program. It was a huge process. And I shared that process with this group, and I put a big exclamation point on my mission accomplished because I was damn proud. I thought that after a year of running the program and 2.5 years of launching it, 1 year of running it, that I really knew what was up. Okay, so I shared with you guys the following lessons. I told all of you, and I'm not going to go deep into this, but I told all of you that it's really important to know your who, what, when, where, why, how, and specifically the who. It is not only who you're targeting in terms of being potential students for you, but it's also really important that you define all of your audiences that you need to convince that your program is needed and valid, and also all of your audience who prove to you that your program is needed and valid. In my case, I spoke to potential employers. We decided to launch a graduate level program, which is the what. And I spoke to a lot of employers who I knew from my IAB days wanted a way of sort of proving that potential employees, that this skill would be valued, that this degree like this would be valued, and these are the skills that they're looking for. I also had to speak, in my case, I work at Rutgers Business School, which is part of a very huge state university inside of New Jersey, and it had the approvals of this program had to go all the way up to the governor's office of New Jersey. So, and there were multiple steps before it got there. So the 2.5 years is quite understandable given that. But I talked about the what, how do you decide what the right product is? In my case, like I said, a graduate level Master's of Science degree as opposed to a concentration within a MBA program, for example. I talked about the when, and this ties into that whole 2.5 year business, about giving yourself time and how much time it takes. I talked about the where, the process that we decided to make this an online only program. I talked about the why, the fact that I wanted to leverage the things that I already knew Rutgers did well and not reinvent the wheel necessarily, or reinvent it as little as possible, so that I would have resources and can learn from other programs. Even if they were related to accounting or supply chain, I could at least benefit from other people's experiences. And I talked about the how, defining your success metrics and how do you know that you've succeeded. I was humble enough, at least at the time, to throw in a bonus number 7, which is that the work is never done. I knew enough after 1 year to know that, I'm going to have to keep tweaking this program, but the big stuff is done. It's launched, it's good. I had 25 students join my first year between fall and spring, and I thought, now from here it's going to get a lot easier. Well, today, with even more humility and a little bit of more exhaustion, I'm going to put a question mark on my mission accomplished and I'm going to underscore that number 7, because sustaining the program is an even bigger deal. So just when you think your work is kind of done, you realize that, there's a lot more to do than, I thought some minor tweaking might be necessary, but I wish there are so many things that had I anticipated or had better insight into some of these decisions 3 years ago, that the last 2 years would have gone quite differently. So what I'm here to share with you today is hopefully some transferable lessons that you find interesting, regardless of where you are in your process of potentially thinking about launching some kind of a degree program at your school, or perhaps you are planning on launching one and you're in the process and you really want to make sure you do it successfully, or maybe you have a program that you're trying to, strengthen, or maybe you're, not that 3 years is very old, but maybe you're 3+ years and you are thinking about maintaining it and sustaining it, and maybe some of these observations will ring true for you as well. Before I dive into the lessons that I've learned, which I will, I want to just point out the significance of this photo. So I mentioned that my program is a fully online program. I also mentioned that it's a Master of Science degree in digital marketing. This past May, just a few weeks ago, was our first meaningful graduation. And when I say meaningful graduation, we had 25 students our first year join us. We had about 60 new students our second year join us. And this past third year, we've had another 60. This May was the first time that we graduated a cohort of students. We had 50 students. Our 55th student graduated this May, and 50 of them together this May. So only 5 students finished our program up until this past May. So this was a very meaningful, this is like my baby. I see this picture and I cry. I'm grinning ear to ear in this picture on the left there. But I can honestly also tell you really amazingly is that this is the first time we've all met in person. So it is a fully online program, fully asynchronous. So we don't even see each other in a classroom and talk in a live classroom. So this was a big celebration and sort of the reasons why I've been very reflective of my learnings over the past 3 years and wanted to share that with you. So just to give a little bit more context, in case there's something I didn't mention already about our program, I mentioned already that it's an MS degree and that it's fully online and that it's asynchronous. Some other pieces of context that will help make sure you understand the conditions under which I'm sharing these lessons with you. We are a CSB accredited business school, and this program is part of that. So we do have some rules around our decisions of who and how people teach and all of that. We have 10 courses that comprise our program, which is 30 credits. Each course is worth 3 credits. I will share a curriculum with you in a little while. Although we're fully asynchronous, which gives people flexibility on when they work on the courses during a week, we keep the classes paced together. So basically a module opens, and let's say on a Monday, and the topic switches that Monday. So everyone's talking about the same content at the same time and moving through the classes together. This was purposely developed in order to increase interaction and engagement with the class. And that's actually what my very first ProfCon talk was about in 2019, was about how to maintain engaging classes online when you're teaching, especially asynchronously. When you want to keep people engaged, you're doing that so you don't lose anybody. It's very easy in an asynchronous class for a student to let things slip, and then they start to snowball, and then they find themselves feeling very lonely and unmotivated, and there's so much to catch up on that if they do catch up at best, they're not really retaining the content, and at worst, they kind of drift away and they don't finish the course or the program. So keeping the class paced together enables us to do 3 things. Interact with each other, with other students, and that's why that picture was so meaningful, because they felt like they knew each other. They had been, discussion boarding and paper swapping and peer reviewing and doing group projects together for so long that they felt like they knew each other, and they had been talking live, whether it was on FaceTime or Canvas or some offline type of way. They kind of got to know each other. So everyone saw each other and everyone was hugging, and they didn't realize how tall they were, but other than that, they felt like they really knew each other. So it increases interaction with each other. It increases interaction with the professor. The professor can hold weekly office hours and have them be live and talk about one topic per week, which of course keeps everybody feeling like they get to know the professor and also make sure that the content is retained. And then thirdly, it increases the interaction with the content itself. When you keep everyone on the same pace, you can bring in a late-breaking case study or an article, or the Super Bowl was this week, so let's talk about that. And you can really keep the content as engaging and interactive as possible when everyone's on the same page at the same time. So that was a deliberate choice. But the curriculum itself is modular and self-paced. So I mentioned I had 5 students graduate ever in the program prior to this past May. Some of those students, they chose to go through the program quicker, is basically what happened. Most students were taking 2 to 3 classes a semester. They work full-time perhaps, or they have an internship, and they just wanted more time to get to graduation. We give them anywhere from 2 semesters if they go full-time to 4.5 years if they go part-time. So people are going through this at a different pace. So the objective is to be both flexible for people, but also really engaging. So trying to balance those 2 things. And as I mentioned, at this point in time, we're enrolling about 60 new students per academic year for a total of 125, 140 students active in the program at a given time. So that's some context. So now what I'm going to share with you is the growth, not to say that I'm a mature degree program. I'm humble. I've been humbled enough to know that I have so much more to learn and grow and change. And that's why I love coming to ProfCon and learning from the network I've made at ProfCon. And actually, one of my professors is someone I met at ProfCon 2019, who I've stayed in touch with, who now teaches for us. And I love this network that it's brought. But that said, I'm kind of a real tree now. I'm not a sapling anymore. I might not be as big as I'm going to get or as mature, but I'm certainly a tree. So what I thought I would share with you guys is what I thought when I first started conceiving of this program. And maybe at year 1, I was like, in this 2nd or 3rd stage here of being a little seedling, and to what I know now, my lessons learned, what I wish I knew when I started. So the first lesson relates to my audience. Who was my audience going to be? I thought from day 1 that I would be attracting job switchers because having grown up in digital marketing myself, I really thought people who work in marketing already are learning this stuff on the job. People who already work in marketing are probably not going to want to get a specialty master's degree in digital marketing. They're probably going to want to get an MBA because they already have the marketing knowledge. They're going to want to supplement that with accounting and supply chain and finance and other areas. So I built this program kind of believing that I was going to get working professionals who wanted to break into the marketing side of things, and specifically digital marketing, because although it's very ironic to say this as a program director of a digital marketing program, personally, I don't think we're going to be talking about digital marketing in the future. We're just going to talk about marketing. So we are marketing and we live in a digital world. There's no need to have a digital marketing degree. You need a marketing degree, and that degree should be fully digital. So I'll put that aside for a moment. But anyway, that's who I thought my core target audience was. What I wish I knew, that I now know, is that there's demand from a lot of different people. There are different motivations for pursuing this degree, and there's different life stages in terms of where people are and where they are in their job search. So right now, what I'm seeing, if I had to classify them in a simple way, I'm seeing 3 different kind of classes of people or groups of people, themes of people, okay? The first is the degree seeker. I was not expecting these people to want my program, to be honest. Degree seekers are those who are younger in their careers. They may be fresh out of undergrad, or they may be a year or so out of undergrad. And they may even, this was the part that I wasn't prepared for, they may even be marketing undergrads. So they took digital marketing in school. They've grown up on digital marketing. They're on social media all of the time. They could teach me about TikTok and all these other things. And here they're applying to my program, and I am like, well, why do you feel that you need this program? And when I talk to them, I realize that they want to be more marketable, and both by having a degree. So that's why they're called degree seekers. They want that graduate level degree. And they also want to make sure that the digital knowledge they have is applied most strategically in a job. They want to have really the most marketable cutting edge skills. And some of them have trouble finding jobs, and they want to do this in the meantime, usually quickly, until they can find that full-time job. So those were the degree seekers. I wasn't prepared for them. I teach a digital marketing class to some of them in undergrad, and I thought, oh crap, I'm teaching a very similar class to the graduate students. I'm going to have to change things up. I, of course, had higher standards and different assignments, but now I was more conscious of, well, no, I need like advanced content for these folks, okay? Those are the degree seekers. The second bucket is these marketing knowledge seekers. These are people who found themselves, and this was pretty much the people I thought I was targeting in the beginning. These are people who find themselves working in digital marketing kind of by accident. So these are people who may have been content developers, video producers, coders, IT, designers, and maybe they started working in social media, or maybe they got into SEO through more of an IT route, and all of a sudden they realize I'm doing digital marketing and I have no idea what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing in social or in search, but I don't understand the bigger context. I want a basic foundation of what marketing is and how to strategically do it. And what I know is just a tactic, and I want to learn other tactics too that I can complement and have a broader portfolio of digital marketing skills and marketing skills that I could apply to the future of my career. That's the second group. The third group surprised me, like the first group did. The third group, although this woman doesn't look very old, I look way older than her, but are the digital skill seekers. These are people more advanced in their careers. They may be already VPs of marketing. They may be managing marketing teams. They may be managing agency relationships. But their challenge is that they may have gotten their MBA 25 years ago. No one ever taught them digital marketing. And as they grew up in marketing, digital wasn't the primary thing. Now they find themselves managing younger people who all know digital, or agencies that are fully digital, and they feel a little bit stupid and don't want to admit it and don't want to show that they don't understand what's going on. And so they're kind of on the side taking my program so that they can add digital to their existing marketing skills. And all these three different groups of people, you can imagine, have a very wide variety of motivations and experiences, and they work really well together in teams because they all help each other out. Okay, second thing that I thought versus what I wish I knew connects very closely to the motivations of different types of students. I thought, because I was reaching job switchers, who would want to really know about digital, but probably didn't have any background or training in marketing, period, let alone digital marketing, I thought that our curriculum should be pretty prescribed, to be honest. I thought that there are specific priorities in digital marketing that you should know. You should know about social, you should know about search, you should know about advertising. And I thought that, yes, there's other things to know and we'll cover them in other classes, but our curriculum should really force them to focus on the tools and tactics that you should definitely have at a minimum to really call yourself a digital marketer. Now I know that because people are coming in with such a wide variety of knowledge and skills and experience, that actually they all come and want to fill different gaps. And oh crap, I'm going to need a lot more focused content to try to reach those people, because not all of them need a class in digital advertising or social or search if that's where they came from. So to give you an idea of our curriculum, we have 10 courses total, and 6 of them are required. So the 6 in the box, on the black box up here, haven't really changed. I have an introductory course to digital marketing, which kind of covers everything. That's similar to the class that I offer to the undergrad side. We have an analytics class that looks at the whole customer journey, online and offline, because this black box are foundational marketing classes to survive in a digital world. These are the classes that I wish every marketing program without digital in the name would cover, because these courses are required to reach customers in our digital world, whether those customers are consumers or business buyers. We should not be carving out digital as a separate thing. Okay, so I'm on my soapbox again, sorry. So customer journey analytics looks at online, offline data. How do we know it's the same customer going through our journey, whether they're in a store or online? Consumer behavior in a digital world, just a modernized view of consumer behavior. Marketing research in a digital world, same thing. Digital marketing law, policy, and ethics, not just what can you do, but what should you do. This is where we talk a lot about privacy and the constant move with data and cookies and all of that. And then we have a digital marketing strategy capstone course where they, at the end, where they apply everything they've learned to a real client. The electives, though, is where I focus on tools and tactics in our program. So when we launched, we had 4 electives. So it sounds funny to say elective, and there's only 4 of them, and you have to take 4. They weren't really electives. They were required electives, haha. But they were tools and tactics required classes. And I thought at the time that all students ought to know digital advertising, social media marketing, content, and search. Those were the 4 that I said these are most important. Well, 3 years later, after meeting with a lot of our students and understanding, reading a lot of applications, understanding their backgrounds, we realized we needed to offer a lot more choice and really accommodate those 3 different groups of people. And we ended up adding these 4 additional classes, and we're probably not finished adding more electives. But in the 3 years, we added 4. Mobile marketing and innovations kind of starts with mobile, but this is where we put all the new stuff. So this is where we talk about the metaverse and AI and augmented reality and all of that. Granted, we talk about mobile in all of our other classes. We talk about metaverse changes in all of our other classes, but this is a focus area for students who feel like I'm already working in social, I don't need that. Let me take mobile and think about new ways to apply social when we're using Internet of Things and not a phone, right? So, some of these courses do rub up close to each other, but mobile marketing and innovation focuses on that. We have an e-commerce class, which looks at, again, not just online sales, but omni-channel selling, so online, offline. We have a new course this summer, UX and UI in digital marketing, for those who want to really think about the user experience. And we have a new class launching in a few semesters that we're working on now that's completely focused on simulations. And that's because, and by the way, a lot of these courses do use Stu-Kent simulations within them. For example, I teach the social media marketing class, and I use the Mimic Social in there. But this simulations class is going to be more exhaustive across categories. So this simulation class is really for the brand new students who are younger in their careers, who've never worked in marketing, for them to practice before they get to the digital marketing strategy class where they have a real client. So the idea is like an almost capstone class where they're pulling what they learned from all their other courses together into one cohesive trial environment. Within each course itself, not just the curriculum overall, in order to accommodate beginner marketers, we've added a lot of optional LinkedIn learning courses and things like that, and extra videos so that they can learn basic marketing concepts if they never got them before. I also happen to teach intro to marketing to undergrads, so this is very helpful for me. But if a student's coming in and they have never worked in marketing before, they may not know what a pestle analysis is, or a SWOT, or even the 4 Ps for that matter. So I have optional content for those who want to take a step back before they start this assignment and learn about some of these frameworks. For more advanced marketers, people who have worked in marketing for a while, we will give supplemental readings and videos, and we do have certification exams built into a lot of these courses, but we'll offer optional additional certification exams, or at least access to them, for people who are more advanced and ready to do more. Next area of gap between what I thought and what I wish I knew is I thought that because we would have professionals who are working in industry, I thought that students would want to take about 2 classes per semester, like not on average, but like that number, that most people at the range would be very tight. I thought the range would be 2 to 3 classes a semester, not just the mean. So I thought that on average, people would finish in 5 or 6 semesters. Maybe they'd want to take a summer off, and that would be about it. And it would be kind of predictable. Not predictable at all. So probably because these 3 different groups are coming from 3 different mindsets and 3 different purposes and motivations. Also, of course, we all know not anyone fits into one of these buckets. Some people feel like they straddle 2 or whatever. The program PACE has a very big variety. I have people who will always take 1 class a semester and will use up that whole 4 years. And I have other students who want to take 5 and do it full time, especially the younger people. They haven't gotten a job yet. They're fresh out of school. They have some internship experience. They want to crank this out in a year, in 2 semesters, in a school year, and then they want to get their job, with their master's degree. So this creates a lot of stress for me. It might not on the surface sound like a problem since I built the program to be very flexible, but it makes my course planning a nightmare because I never know how many and which courses to offer each semester. And I'm planning, in our WebReg, course planning system 2 semesters out. I'm already planning for next spring. So I guess that's 2.5 semesters out. I started planning for spring and spring. So in order to help myself with my course planning, course schedule planning, I took on another role, which is academic advising, which I never really thought about being part of my director role of my program. But I set up these optional meetings for students to meet with me just before the enrollment period for each quarter, for each semester. And I set up 15 or 20-minute meetings on Zoom with each student, and I just have them in the waiting room, and they come in as they're ready, and I sit on Zoom for about 6 hours and have a bunch of students coming in and out. And I give them academic advising. I look at their course plan. I have to post planning worksheets of what the whole curriculum looks like, and they put in when they want to end and what their tentative schedule is. I give them a tentative schedule at least a year in advance. That's posted, and I have TBD all over it, but so that if they know they want a certain elective, they can see when it's planning on being offered so that they can course plan. And I meet with them and I go over every person's plan, and I tell them to set up a contingency in case we have to pull this elective because there's not enough students in it. I can't run a course unless it has 15 students in it. Rutgers, has a minimum threshold. And I also don't want a class to get too big because although it's asynchronous, the students don't really feel that it's a big class necessarily. The professor can't give that engagement one-on-one to individual students if they have 40 people in the class. So I try really hard to keep class sizes to somewhere between 24 and 30 is sort of a sweet spot. But I've done bigger than 30 when I've had to, and I've begged for running a course lower than 15 when I've had to. But ideally, I am planning my courses such that the professor can manage the amount and still give individualized attention to each student, and they feel like they got to know the professor, and that the courses don't get canceled. So that's why I go through this whole process and stress about it every semester. The other thing I've had to do as a Band-Aid is I've had to supervise, and if not supervise, find professors who will supervise independent studies to get someone to graduate on time. So if we can't run a class because only 3 people are ready to take the capstone class, I need to get them the capstone class, even though I can't run the class. So I will oversee 3 independent projects that are proxies for the capstone. So they have real clients and they're pulling it all together and they're doing what they need to do to graduate on their desired timeline. I very rarely fully close a class without giving a student a backup plan, because that's what I'm doing as a director. So it's a very hands-on, non-scalable program I've got running here, but it works for the size that I'm at now, to be able to work around these kinds of challenges, given the fact that everyone's on a different schedule. The last area that I kind of had a large gap between what I thought I knew and what I wish I knew relates to program engagement. So I gave you guys that whole pitch that I gave ProfCon 2019 about the importance of program engagement, that being engaged in any online class, especially asynchronous, but being engaged with your professor, with your classmates, and with the content is integral to satisfaction and engagement with your program and with your course. And in fact, you get better grades when you are more engaged. Your friends keep you on the hook for that learning. And of course, you hug them at graduation because you're so thrilled to meet them in person and you feel very connected to your school and you become a really good alumni, right? So this is the kind of goal and the holy grail of what we're trying to accomplish when we run a program. But I kind of never really realized until this week, actually, that I did an exit interview for those 50 students who just graduated, that some of them, a small percentage, not most of them said the best parts of the program was the network that I made and the classmates that I met and the new friends that I met and being connected to the industry already with each other. Like, those were all positive things. But some of them said that they deliberately chose an asynchronous program because they wanted to be independent. They were angry that a lot of courses required a lot of group work and that they were forced to show up and get dressed and coordinate with other people's schedules and make time for a program in real time live that was sold as asynchronous and flexible. And to be honest, I did not really plan for them. We don't overdo the projects, but if you're someone in this boat that really does not want to have to show up with people in person, this could be a burden, even if it happens in half your classes. So, what we've done, or what I'm going to do, because I just got this feedback, some of this we started already, but others I'm going to emphasize further, is when we have live office hours with professors, we always make sure to record it and post it because, people are in different time zones. We have students in South Africa and Alaska, Singapore. Not everyone can make an office hour that's at a live time. So we've always recorded and posted them. We also have closed private Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups, just like ProfCon does and StuKent does. And these are great. Our Facebook closed group is really just for students. That's where they ask each other questions about classes that they're thinking about taking, and they talk about job openings they have at their own company that they want to share with each other. They talk about headlines in the news that they want to get feedback on. This is where I put announcements about guest speakers that we have and things like that. The LinkedIn group is a little bit more professional. It includes all current students as well as all of their professors and our advisory board and guest speakers who've spoken to our class, to our students. So it's a little bit of a broader community, but still some link to our program. And of course, some students choose to interact a lot in those and others, rarely look. What's really cool now is that with 50 new alumni, I have to figure out how to best integrate them and keep them integrated in these groups, because now we can do things like mentorship between alums and students and job postings and kind of create a larger industry community of them and keep them in that fold. So that's my new challenge. The other thing that I'm going to start doing is the second two bullets, which is we are starting to make groups smaller. So if you do have a group project, it should be 2 or 3 students because it's fewer people to coordinate schedules with. We also started doing in one of our classes, I'm going to start this more overall, is a survey for scheduling. So are you someone that can meet at night, weekends, weekdays, mornings, whatever? And that will help us assemble teams that are more compatible with each other's schedules. Maybe it's based on time zones. Contracts so that everyone knows what's expected of them and no one can say that they were unaware of their obligations. And the thing I'm going to be much more lenient on going forward is related to having an individual option for a student that really does not want to work in a group. So I wouldn't take away any of the work. So the disincentive of working individually, because I do think there's a lot of benefit still to working with other classmates. So the disincentive would be you have more work that's on your own back, but the benefit would be you don't have to coordinate with other people's schedules. So if that's truly important to somebody, they'd be willing to do the extra work, I guess. And that's the idea, okay? So basically in the last 3 years, and then I'll stop for questions, I've had to learn to cater to several different target audiences, most of which I was not expecting. I've had to flex our curriculum in response to student needs and understanding those needs and then adjusting. I've had to adapt to students' desired program pace, which has been incredibly stressful for me. That's probably my biggest pain point is the course planning in this kind of a space. I had to this summer was a big mess. Nobody wanted to take classes this summer. I have lots of small classes, so I was bringing in other students from other programs who wanted a spot in a course, so I wouldn't have to cancel any. I've had to respect students' desired program engagement, even though I think it's good for them to engage with each other. If that's not what they want, I need to figure out how to respect that. And I need to also sort of selfishly and personally feel accomplished even when there's a big fat question mark on whether I actually am accomplished, acknowledging that I am never done and this is going to be what it will be, and I will need to, just like any good marketer, listen to my customers and be able to adapt accordingly. So please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to take any questions now, Darlene.
All right, that was fantastic. I'm happy to see the connections from your other ProfCon session to this one, and it's great to hear from you. I don't know if you saw, I just want to quickly shout out Joey's comment. Joey Haynes said that you are so inspiring and continue to challenge her. Congratulations on your 3-year mark and super job and super results. So
Thank you, Joey. I'm a big fan of hers as well.
So the first question, and anybody who's here with us, keep putting them in the chat. We'll keep going. But the first question is, what are the credit hours that you associate with your courses?
So all of our courses are structured to be 3-credit courses. So they run for 15-week semesters. They run for full semesters, fall and spring, and then summer's 12, but the hours adjust so that it's the equivalent of a 15-week course. And we build it with the same goal of that students should be spending the equivalent of 3 hours in the classroom per week and 2 to 5 hours extra per week, depending on the week of homework and assignments. So we tell students that they're going to spend about 7 hours or so on average per course per week.
Okay, great. Next question does this program collaborate in any way with other departments on campus, like communication? Wondering if you have any faculty from other areas who are involved, or if any of the elective classes are housed elsewhere.
So that's a really good question. So I come from industry, so I was not really prepared for how siloed academia can be. So that was something that I learned. And so basically when I started, I launched everything on my own. So our core classes were all mine and developed by me or pulled from, developed by a professor that I brought in to develop that class. So everything was homegrown and ours. But more recently, now that we've got a core program established, I am personally venturing out into the rest of Rutgers and growing what we offer. So the UX UI course that you saw that's new for this summer, that's being taught by someone else within Rutgers, but not at the business school, who teaches UX and UI over at the School of Graduate Studies. That's not part of the business school. The other course I didn't put on here, we allow our students to take courses in other schools that our board deems relevant to digital marketing. So we have some students enrolled in a negotiations class, which happens to be offered by the business school. I have a student that wants to take a class in blockchain that's offered by, a technology engineering kind of department. So we approve things, but the only one that we've built so far from scratch with another department is the UX UI class, but I expect that to change.
Awesome. What kind of promotion of the new program have you engaged in?
So most of my promotion has been really me, and someone said this yesterday. I think it was Scott Cowley said this yesterday, that every student he brings into his undergrad program is like done one at a time. That's kind of how mine is too. Even though I work for a really big university, that's like the State University of New Jersey, and New Jersey is a pretty populated state. I hold monthly information sessions, and we do have a marketing department that has a little bit of budget for my program allocated that will go out there and place ads that market my information sessions. But a lot of it is word of mouth from our current students and social media posts and my network of people that know people. And I hold these monthly information sessions. I bring a current student into them, and I follow up with every one of those students one-on-one. And I offer myself to do, kind of a counseling advising session about whether they should get an MBA or an MS or wait to go to school. And I give them the honest truth, because a lot of students I think should get an MBA instead, or not, or wait to go to school. And to be honest, selfishly, I don't want those students in our program if I anticipate that, a year from now or 5 months from now, they're going to wish they did something different. So, I am spending a lot of time on talking to people about the program, and not quite selling it, but consulting about it.
That's awesome. It is kind of connections and word of mouth are always going to be a very powerful promotion strategy. You mentioned earlier the Facebook groups, and I know Chandler put a link in there if anybody wants to join the StuCamp one we have. Next question, how many full-time or part-time faculty are devoted to teaching digital? Devoted to teaching digital does it take to launch a program like this? And I think you mentioned that, like, is it just you right now? Or
No.
the teacher?
Oh my God, I do not teach all these classes. No way. So, so there's a lot of, that's another whole, the course advising and course planning and professor, I'm not gonna call it acquisition, but professor identification and building these courses is a lot of my time. So I was the only digital marketing instructor. I was the only person full-time Rutgers employee that taught anything related to digital marketing in 2019. And since 2019, I would not say that's completely changed. There's no one that's been brought in just with a specialty in digital. However, more professors are more knowledgeable about some aspects of digital. So they can at least update their consumer behavior class, for example, that they would have taught to an MBA. With my coaching, they're able to say, oh yeah, that makes sense. I can modernize this for digital. And in fact, I think those changes end up trickling back into their MBA program where it's not in a digital world in their title. So we have the courses in black. I would say 3 of them used existing professors in the MBA program who I brought in, and they adapted their course to digital. Keep in mind, I launched this before COVID, so nobody wanted to teach online. Like nobody. So I had a very difficult time, and I had AACSB accreditation rules that told me I had to have a certain percentage of full-time professors, a certain percentage of scholarly academics, and that was near impossible to fulfill either of those things because scholarly academics didn't have digital knowledge. No offense to those that are here, but a lot of scholarly academics never learned digital because there wasn't digital programs like this. There wasn't digital curriculum. So if they never worked in industry, they never had that knowledge. So I probably brought in 3 existing people to help me get started, and everybody else was part-time. So I brought in people who are lecturers, adjuncts. I started out as an adjunct coming from industry. Almost more than half of the courses are taught by adjuncts. And people like you guys that I meet at ProfCon who I realize are good teachers. And if you want to teach for me, please feel free to hit me up because asynchronous classes require about 6 months of course development before you teach the class. And that's a big ask. It takes a lot of time and it's uncompensated. So it's not really a job until you teach the class, and you have to pre-make the class in order to teach it. So it takes a long time, and some bomb, and then I start over with a new professor. Now I'm better at identifying which ones might bomb. So that doesn't happen as much now, but in the beginning there were a lot of fits and starts.
Awesome. Yeah, I've saw lots of comments from the chat of this has been great information, and they're happy to see what you have learned. Some are hoping to start programs at their college, but they're not there yet. So this has definitely been insightful. Um, yeah, I don't think we have any more questions. So thank you, Stacy, for coming on today and for sharing all of your knowledge. We're so happy to have you at ProfCon, and we hope that you'll come to the next one.